Welcome friends to another r/am I the jerk here video. We've got a lot of hard-hitting questions to get into, and our first story is from Hey 678-9100. Am I the jerk for making a dad buy me a new beer after his kid kicked mine over? So I, young 20s female, was at a kind of outdoor neighborhood festival a few weeks ago where everyone was mostly sitting on the grass in groups. I was sat down with a full cup of beer and a small circle of friends when a young child, 6 maybe, ran through the middle of the circle and kicked over my full beer. I was nice about it and was like, it's okay, but would you mind buying me another one since it was full? The dad was reluctant and seemed pissy at me for asking, but I got up and was basically like, okay, let's go. The bar was like 7 yards away. He still seemed really annoyed with me, so I'm wondering if I was in the wrong. I'm a student, so 7 British pound beer is expensive for me, and I'd been drinking a tiny bit before this, so I'm not sure if my judgment was all there. So am I the jerk? I hereby decree, let it be known, that if your child knocks over or ruins somebody else's food or drink, if the affected person so desires, you should be obligated to buy or replace whatever they had. Would you guys agree with me that if a kid knocks over somebody's food or drink, you should offer to replace it? I think OP's not the jerk. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is from Vivid Law 705. Am I the jerk for refusing to give my former brother-in-law's stepchildren access to my late sister's possessions, which included her small jewelry collection, a couple of very fancy art supplies, think custom paintbrushes kind of thing, some stuffed animals she'd had since childhood, and some family photos and baby books and blankets saved that belonged to our family. She told me she knew her husband would move on, and she worried that he would allow any future children of his to have her stuff, instead of her boys once they became of age. She made me promise that I would keep them for the boys once they moved out. I made her the promise and I kept it. He knew about it and was extremely unhappy with Anna's decision. He felt betrayed and like they should just be as much as his as hers, but legally he couldn't do anything. My former brother-in-law remarried 6 years ago and has 2 stepdaughters as well as a bio daughter. Luca and Milo come to my house 1 weekend a month, which was ordered by the courts, and while they're with me, they've admitted to feeling like their dad wants them to treat the 3 girls like their mom's kids. He had asked them to ask me to give the girls the jewelry and stuffed animals. The boys also told me that he had shown the girls the photos of the 2 of them with the stuffed animals, and the girls got really jealous. They said they don't want their mom's stuff to go to them. I promised them it would not, and I would give it to them one day. Former brother-in-law's oldest stepdaughter is turning 13 soon, and apparently she wanted my sister's locket, or a lookalike. He approached me about it, and I told him no way. He told me I was being selfish, and they're Milo and Luca's sisters, and Anna's memory should be shared with them, and they should feel like they have a guardian angel looking out for them. I told them Anna had not wanted that, and her priority would have always have been her children over children he had, or took on with someone else. I told him those 3 girls were nothing to do with Anna, and were not entitled to any of her possessions. He called me a jerk and told me I was making the girls feel bad, and that even if Anna never met them, I should have accepted them as family and done my best to treat them. He also brought up my not even letting them see the things in person, the stuffed animals especially, and I do remember his younger stepdaughter, who's 10, was upset to not get to see them. It makes me wonder if I'm being too harsh with the kids, but I also don't want them to get attached either, because they'll never actually get anything from me, and the boys don't consider them sisters, so it's unlikely they'll ever give them anything either. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP can be the jerk here in this situation, because they were only ever following the wishes of somebody who owned that stuff. I think it sucks that the kids are getting upset or jealous about it, but it was never really their stuff ever to begin with, so I'm upset I don't have $1 million. I'm jealous that some relatives have way more money than I do. Should they give that to me? I think OP's not the jerk. This next story is from Miss Lost 1023. Am I the jerk for making my 7-year-old go to Alcoholics Anonymous? I, 31-year-old female, have an amazing son, almost 8, who is incredibly sweet, well-mannered, and inquisitive. Although I guess most parents think of their kids that way. I quit drinking about 2 months ago and have been adamant about doing the AA program correctly. 90 meetings in 90 days, sponsor, daily readings, therapy, etc. I really want to be a good mom. and make up for my bad decisions when I was drinking. I never harmed him or put him in any danger, but I just wasn't present and am remorseful about my drinking past. The problem is that I'm a single mom who works full-time, and I live in a small town. Because it's small, there aren't a lot of options in terms of AA meetings, so the only one I can really attend is the 5:30 based on my schedule and my son's. His father has him part-time, so on those days I can attend meetings by myself, but on my days, I have to bring my son. I don't have anyone to leave him with, and babysitting wouldn't work because nobody wants to babysit for just 1 hour. It doesn't financially make sense for them. So I take my son to meetings. Naturally, he isn't too thrilled when I have to. Before you suggest I could do Zoom meetings, I really don't get anything out of them. I like the in-person connection and atmosphere. My ex, who has never taken my alcoholism seriously and has never actually attended an AA meeting, says I'm the jerk for exposing our child to that kind of atmosphere and those kinds of people. The truth is, those people are what have saved my life. They're so sweet and good with my son, and while sometimes the subject matter can be a little adultish, we mostly talk about how to be better people and live in a spiritually sound existence and to help our fellow man. I personally think it's good for my son to be surrounded by people that are trying to better themselves and also to let him know at an early age the effects of alcoholism as it runs in my family. But maybe I'm the jerk and way off mark and I'm doing more damage than good. I would just like outside opinions that aren't emotionally connected to the situation. Am I the jerk for taking my 7-year-old to AA meetings with some of the topics that are addressed? I could see how in some ways you argue them having that experience could be a good thing. Maybe there's good values or good virtues or ways of thinking or feeling that could be picked up from that, but you also expose your 7-year-old to a nasty side of addiction. And depending on whatever stories are being told about their experiences with addiction, it could be probably way too much for 7-year-olds. And frankly, how do the rest of the people in this place feel about that? Could you bringing your 7-year-old influence any of these people that show up to AA to not want to talk about their experiences? Or, get into the real details of things? I'm gonna say this is a very, very soft OP is the jerk. I don't really want to call them a jerk for it, because I get they don't really have much choice, but I do think overall it leans more on the inappropriate side. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. This next story is from AITA Feeding Neighbors. Am I the jerk for not wanting to buy my neighbor's groceries? We just had a woman, mid-20s, and her daughter, 9, move into the apartment across the hall from us. The day the woman and her daughter moved in, she got on Buy Nothing, Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace, and really any other neighborhood buy, sell, or giveaway group asking for furniture, baby supplies, she's pregnant, and clothes and toys for her daughter. Her daughter went to the same summer camp as my kids, 9-year-old female and 11-year-old female, and after she started there, they conveniently had a food drive for their disadvantaged campers. My kids have been going there since they were 3, and they've never had a food drive. Then when school started, she got on the parent groups and asked if anyone would be able to drive her daughter home from school and watch her for an hour until she gets home. No pay was mentioned. My husband pressured me to say yes because she's friends with our girls and she's in the same class as our younger daughter, so they can do homework together. That hour turned into 2, and she started having dinner with us almost every night. Then the girl told my husband she doesn't think her mom is eating when she has dinner with us. That day, we had a lasagna big enough to feed all of us twice, and he sent the leftovers home with her. Then he started to send all of our leftovers home with her, along with clothes our daughters grew out of, toys they don't want anymore, and he started to buy extra groceries for them. He didn't get anything expensive, just things like milk, eggs, store-brand cereal, fruits and vegetables, and sometimes meat. It started adding up to an extra $40 to $50 a week just for them. He also started helping them around the house. I eventually told him to stop sending the leftovers home because I take them for lunch. And sometimes the kids also take them, so not having the leftovers is costing us extra money. Plus, the $40 to $50 a week should be spent on our family, not the woman across the hall. He said we can afford it and they need it much more than we do, and I said we already do more than enough for them, acting as a free daycare for her and giving her daughter dinner 5 days a week. He called me selfish, jealous, and cruel, and now I want to know if I'm the jerk. I think OP's not the jerk here because I agree that already driving the daughter home from school and having them over and feeding them is already doing a lot for them, and regardless of if they are in a bad situation or not, you shouldn't feel guilt or obligation to have to basically pay for this family. The husband has a big heart, but I think he's allowing his feelings to influence him and to cover a lot of the expenses for these two people as well. I think it's just unfair for the husband to continue trying to pressure OP into not only providing the daycare, providing dinner to them, and paying for extra things on top of all that too. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. Our next story is from an anonymous poster. Am I the jerk for refusing to eat meat that isn't safely cooked? So I, 28-year-old male, have two brothers, and the youngest one, Matt, 22-year-old male, has been dating this girl Lila, 20-year-old female, for a bit over a year. Lila is a lovely girl, but we're all kind of surprised when Matt introduced her to us. See, we're from a rural area. We like to eat meat and cheese, drink during special occasions, and so Lila's a vegan, doesn't drink, and never smokes. While I respect her choices, it's made it difficult for us to include her in some of our family traditions. When Matt and her come over, she can't eat the same food as us and usually brings her own meal. She never drinks a glass of wine or beer with us. We're honestly all wondering how Matt and her ended up together, having such different morals. But anyway, every year we have this family gathering at the end of summer, and this year Matt and Lila offered to host it. Matt informed us that Lila was going to cook a meal from her country, and we were all surprised when we discovered it wasn't vegan. It was a side of vegetables with potatoes, and chicken is the main piece. My family seemed very pleased by that effort, and were excited about the meal. Whereas I asked them if Matt had cooked the chicken himself, or if Lila did it, she answered that she had cooked it herself with directions from her mother. I was dubious. She had never cooked meat in her entire life, obviously didn't taste it. It could very well be raw or dangerously undercooked. So I told them I was grateful for the effort, but I wouldn't eat it for safety reasons. I gave my reasoning when Matt asked me why, and it just made him furious. He said that if I didn't feel safe eating Lila's food, then I could just leave instead. Lila offered to share her own vegan substitute with me, but Matt shut her down and said that it was the chicken or nothing. So I had nothing. The dinner was very awkward and cold after that, with Matt being snappish and angry, and Lila being very quiet and making any excuse to leave the table. When it was time to leave, I tried explaining to Matt that it wasn't because I thought Lila was a bad cook. She's a baker in a vegan bakery. I've had some of her pastries before, and they were delicious. But just because I didn't feel comfortable eating meat that was cooked by someone who knows nothing about it. He told me to just leave, and we haven't talked since. The rest of my family are also saying that it's rude and disrespectful of me, and that the meat was very good after all. I don't care. Again, I'm saying it's not about Lila, it's about not feeling safe eating something. I don't see why she's allowed to refuse eating meat at our gatherings and not me. Though my mom does agree that Matt went too far by refusing to let me eat something else instead. Am I the jerk? I'm actually gonna say that OP is the jerk here. Just because somebody who doesn't usually cook meat cooked that meat, I don't think that's reason alone enough to turn down the food. Did OP ask what their method of cooking it was, how long they cooked it? Did OP look at the food? You can usually tell pretty well if something's cooked or not by just looking at it. And I don't know if OP's aware, but they were given instructions on how to cook that. I mean, people can be bad cooks and still mess it up, but if you're given directions on how to cook something, it's pretty hard, I feel like, to mess it up. This next story is from an anonymous poster. Am I the jerk for not letting my elder daughter have my younger's wedding dress? Names have been changed. I'm 55 and Amelia is 32. My husband and I have two daughters, Opal and Amelia. Opal and her fiance Jack passed away 4 years ago. Her wedding dress had been bought and my baby never got to wear it. I kept the dress. I don't look at it much anymore, but it's just one of those things that remind me of her and also Jack, who I viewed as my son. Amelia is getting married to Liam. She asked me if she could have Opal's dress. She said she loves the style and design and wants to tweak it a bit to better match her tastes. I said no. Amelia told me that Opal didn't wear it, so no one's seen it, and I can't keep it in a corner gathering dust forever. I've insisted no multiple times, and that Amelia can get her own dress, maybe similar to Opal's design, but she can't have this one. Amelia said life is for the living and I'm making things harder for her. She offered to pay and buy it from me, but I still refused. It seemed like Amelia understood. But this past weekend, our family and Liam's family went to dinner. His mom pulled me aside and said that Amelia is upset about the whole thing and the wedding planning's already difficult. So I could compromise and make it a bit easier for her by giving her the dress. Now I'm thinking if I'm really being unreasonable. My husband thinks I'm in the right, but some third-party opinions would be nice. I think OP is comfortably not the jerk here. If you don't want to give that wedding dress up, you don't want to sell that wedding dress, you don't want to lose that wedding dress in any way, that's your right. It's got valued memories and connotations and you don't want to mess that up. Even if it is just sitting in the closet for a long time not being looked at. That's your right to keep it there and keep it safe. Our next story is from Aunt Tired 67. Am I the jerk for calling my niece a spoiled freaking brat and making her cry? I'm female 22. My sister, 28-year-old female, recently had to move in with me because she's getting a divorce and has nowhere to stay. She has a daughter, 7-year-old female. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, so it's cramped and tensions are high. My niece is terrible, to be honest. She screams all day long at the top of her lungs. I work from home, so I've tried to get my sister to get her to stop, but she's so depressed from her divorce that she struggles to get out of bed. I've asked my niece to quiet down myself, but she just smirks at me and continues playing and screeching. I've gotten reprimanded at work for it. She also recently broke my laptop. I made it clear to both of them that my niece is not allowed to use my electronics minus the living room TV. Lo and behold, niece got her hands on my laptop to play games on it, spilled milk all over it, and ruined it. I was furious, but my sister paid to replace it, so I let it go. I've tried many times to talk to my sister about this being unacceptable, but keep getting blown off and told to let her grieve in peace. I do feel bad for her, so I was doing my best to just put up with it. Today I came home from errands to find my niece playing on my Nintendo Switch. Mind you, this was kept in my room, so she must have gone in there and looked for it. Annoyed, I held my hand out and told her to give it. She just ignored me. I called for my sister to take care of her daughter, but she was asleep and told me to leave her alone. So I just grabbed the Switch right from my niece's hands and took it back to my room. She started screaming and crying and literally rolling on the floor, but I ignored her. Well, she decided that was just not acceptable. So she took a Sharpie and drew all over the living room wall. When I saw it, I freaked the freak out. I told her she's a spoiled freaking brat. She started screaming and crying even worse, which finally woke my sister up. She came out and instead of being angry and scolding her daughter for her behavior, she scolded me for yelling at her and calling her a spoiled brat. Not my proudest moment, but I yelled at my sister that I was being kind by letting them stay with me rent-free, and I was being treated like absolute crap in return. She wasn't parenting her child, and I wasn't going to parent her child for her, so she needed to get her stuff together and her daughter under control, or they can find somewhere else to stay. Her daughter was not only getting me in trouble at my job, but had no respect for my personal belongings, and now I was probably going to lose my security deposit because she doesn't accept the word no. My sister started crying, called me a jerk, and she and my niece haven't come out of their room. I feel bad now. Am I the jerk? I'm saying OP's not the jerk here. If you keep them around, keep them in like one room together, they can process it together there. Just because they're grieving, which a lot of people go through divorces and it sucks, and yeah, I understand them grieving, but just because they are doesn't absolve them from being a parent. And it doesn't give them or their kids a pass to be intolerable. Our next story is from Revolutionary Alien. Am I the jerk for keeping a massive secret from my parents? My parents, female 66 and male 70, and I, female 32, have had a bit of a strained relationship since I was young. My sister was always favored while I was treated as the maid, which is why I left home as soon as I could. Over the years, our relationship has had its ups and downs, but I would never describe our family dynamics as being particularly normal or healthy. I married my husband, male 36, when I was 23, and my parents just about hit the roof. They have never really taken a shining to him and threatened to disown me if I went through with the marriage. When he and I would visit their home, he's subjected to the same expectations I am, whereas my sister gets to put up her feet and relax. Needless to say, my husband doesn't hold my parents in particularly high regard. My parents emigrated overseas about 10 years ago, and my husband and I have only seen them 3 times in person since. We do chat over FaceTime and Zoom semi-regularly, but the relationships all function better if we aren't breathing down each other's necks. Recently, my husband and I bought our first house, and we are over the moon. We plan on growing our family, and we now have the space and the garden to do so. I am beyond thrilled. My parents are kept on a strict information diet, and we didn't tell them that we had bought, mostly because they're renting a storage unit not far from us, and we didn't want the drama of my parents wanting, expecting, to store all of their furniture in our new house. We also didn't tell them that our new house is much more spacious than our old place. As far as my parents are aware, we just moved because it was closer to my husband's job. Unbeknownst to me, my parents have been in the country for about a month and ran into a childhood friend, Dee, 34-year-old female, of mine yesterday. Dee told them that I'd invited her to coffee today, and it would be so lovely if they came with her and surprised me. Dee had no way of knowing that I had not told my parents about the spacious new house until they all walked through the front door and my mom lost her mind at me. The main points for my mom's yelling was that our relationship had been good recently, so how could I have kept this secret from them? My husband and I were selfish to have all this space with no regard for the fact that they're renting a storage unit, and that my parents are hurt I don't include them in all parts of my life. Unfortunately, my husband arrived home not long after the tirade started, and he told them to stop making a scene under his roof. That is when the other shoe dropped that we had bought instead of rented. Ultimately, my parents left after telling me that a true daughter would never keep secrets like this, and I'm left feeling like everything could have been avoided if we had told them from the beginning. To be frank, though, I honestly never expected them in my house. They don't have the address, and they live overseas. This is definitely one of those situations where maybe telling them from the beginning and just putting your foot down would have been the best policy. I mean, I get it. It is hard to stand up to an overbearing parent, but at some point you just gotta put your foot down and say it like it is, lest your new spacious home will become the new storage spot for your parents. Definitely not the jerk though. Our next story is from DoubleAd6415. Am I the jerk for asking my guests to pay $10 to come to my wedding? My fiance, 23-year-old male, and I, 23-year-old female, are getting married in less than a month. We're doing a small wedding and only inviting 20 guests. We decided we wanted to have our wedding up in a canyon, but to access this canyon it costs $10, so we're having our guests pay $10 to enter the canyon. We put this canyon fee on our invitations. My sister called today as she had just received her invite in the mail and was mad about having to pay to attend a wedding. She called me a jerk because I was being a cheapskate, and there are thousands of canyons that won't have a fee. But me and my fiance already have our hearts set on this specific canyon in view. As the argument went on, she started to nitpick our whole wedding plan. Having the guests bring their own camping chairs, not having a real reception, just a small dinner for those who attended, and posting our registry all over social media, but only having 20 people actually be invited. We don't want to spend a lot of money, and so doing it outdoors is one way of doing that. We also just want our close, intimate friends and families to be there, so I don't know what's wrong with keeping it small. To those who will ask, it's a canyon fee you have to pay at the base. So it's not like we could just pay the park rangers in advance and just say, this should cover it. It's open to the public. So am I the jerk? I get not wanting to spend a lot of money, but it's just too much here. I'm gonna say OP is the jerk. They're just like, pay $10 to get to our wedding, bring your own chair, 20 people only, but hey, everyone that's following me everywhere, if you want to do something, here's my registry. It's just too much. especially considering most of these people will probably have to pay a decent little bit just to get to the wedding, let alone $10 to get in. Our next story is from Bar Trooper 10. Am I the jerk for kicking a girl out of our friend group? So I, 26-year-old male, have a long-standing friend group. Most of us have been friends since high school. This girl named Zoe, 25-year-old female, has been part of the group since college. We've hung out plenty of times, but I would describe our relationship as casual friends. We follow each other on social media and talk in the larger group, but never one-on-one hanging out. She is friends mostly with the girlfriends, but I had a low-key crush on her. Some of the women in the group know, but have kept it to themselves for my sake. But last month, I got kind of drunk and messaged her late night about possibly hanging out. She messaged me back in the morning and said she would like to hang out more, but just as friends. I told her I understood, but knew what that meant, so I never reached back out. So my parents own a bar. Typically I'll bartend there on the weekends before I go out. My friend group are regulars at the bar. I'll send a text out about what specials we have that night and invite people to come. So I send out a big invite and include Zoe on it. She shows up and immediately starts talking to me. I was working, so I kinda just moved along. I charged her full price the whole night, and she started complaining to the other girls about it, which ticked me off. Yes, sometimes I will give free stuff out to my friends, but it isn't all the time. Yes, I used to hook up Zoe a lot, but that was before she said we were friends. Then the second thing that happened was I invited a girl to come to the bar to pregame with us before we went out. Zoe sees me talking to this girl, decides to introduce herself completely out of the blue. Then those two start talking at the bar, and it slips out that me and Zoe used to be good friends till I asked her out. The girl I invited wasn't happy, and I had to spend the next hour explaining that away. So the next time the group went out, I sent Zoe a text and told her to please not show up. She is more than welcome to meet us out later, but I didn't want to deal with her at my bar. Her friends showed up to the bar this weekend and asked me to talk. They said it was unfair to not invite Zoe, because now she feels isolated. Our whole friend group hangs out here, so banning her is essentially banning her from the group. I said everyone is free to pick a different bar to hang out at, and then they can invite whoever they want. But Zoe is weird and causing issues, so it's her own fault. I've still been called the jerk, but my guys are on my side. Am I the jerk? I think OP is the jerk here. They gave preferential treatment, which, I get it, you're interested in somebody, you're probably gonna throw some freebies more their way. But when they politely turn you down, all of a sudden your switch flips off, you stop hooking them up, right away you bring another girl in there, which just makes it look like you're just going through a list. Because she turned you down on dating, you started giving her the cold shoulder and acted like you weren't interested in anything to do with her. So yeah, I think what she did was justifiable, and I think OP's the jerk. And our final story of the day is from an anonymous poster. Am I the jerk for wanting my parents in town, but not at my house, while I'm adjusting to life with a newborn? I, 24-year-old female, am currently pregnant, due in December. I live with my fiance Dan in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in well below market value, in exchange for me hosting them when they needed or wanted to come into town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement, I think. Now, yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I brought up that I would like her to be in town when I give birth and to stay for a few weeks after. Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins that I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't really have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I would love for my parents to come here and help around the house with the baby, offer me emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this and said that she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her that I didn't mean her staying with us, just in town, as I believe Dan and I are going to need and want alone time to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and she was going to help out. But I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or an Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within earshot, and said that accommodation was going to be really expensive around that time of year. Our town has a very famous, very big Christmas market, and he wasn't about to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come, and it had been our agreement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which, fair, but I don't think that having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life. And it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I just don't want them in the house, but I do want them in town, and I feel a little sad that they're putting money above me and their grandson. My mother hung up the call, trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that her and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing and that they thought I wasn't being reasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all of this and he kind of sided with them, saying that they shouldn't be allowed to stay with us. But I still don't think it makes sense, as we're going to be needing our alone time. Was I the jerk here? Considering everything, I think it's safe to say OP is the jerk here. It is awesome that you want your parents over for the help and support, but if they can't stay with you and you expect them to stay in an Airbnb or a hotel for weeks, it's just not realistic. That's a lot of money. And then to turn around and say, oh, you're putting money above me and your grandson? No, they're just being realistic. If you're the one wanting them to come over and you want them to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb for a few weeks, you should be the one paying for it. And if OP doesn't want to do that, then I feel a little sad that they're putting money above them and their child's grandparents. Am I the jerk for kicking out my boyfriend and his daughter after she used my photos for her scrapbook? I started seeing a guy roughly a year and a half ago. He has a 9-year-old, almost 10, daughter named Chrissy. I have an 11-year-old son as well. We met each other's kids 3 months back, and last month, they started having weekend visits here. It's been a super hard adjustment for me especially. The kids get along for the most part, but I'm just having a really hard time. My son has always been a fairly good kid and hardly ever given me issues. He never drew on walls or broke anything of importance or talked back. Aside from occasionally, obviously no kid is perfect, and he's always super quick to ask permission to touch my stuff. I personally think I just lucked out, and I knew that not all kids were as well behaved as my child, but I wasn't ready, I don't think. I'm just overwhelmed. So since she's been doing weekend visits here, she stays in my guest room. She's destroyed a lot. Rips holes in the mattress and then says they were already there. They weren't. Draws on the walls and windowsill with makeup and marker. She even takes my new feminine pads to her room and will cut them up. She's put a hole in my wall and said it was already there. I can buy a brand new thing of shampoo and conditioner, and it's 100% gone and in the trash by the end of her shower, which lasts 45 minutes every single time. She stomps her feet and slams doors when we have to speak to her and knocks things off the walls. She's generally a good kid, but she is so freaking destructive. What really set me off was her coming here this weekend with her dad. My son was at his father's, and I was called into the office to do a signing, which would roughly only take an hour max. So I left him here without me. Well, when I got back, she was sitting at the kitchen table with all my photo albums laying in front of her, cutting out the faces and everything else on these photos and gluing them to her scrapbook. Photos I cannot get back, as they were printed out years ago when I was in foster care, and those were the only copies I had. Photos of my dead friend as well. I went to my boyfriend, who was on the phone outdoors, and told him they needed to leave. Explained the situation and told him I was freaking done. Those photos, as stupid as it may be, were a huge part of my childhood, and now they're destroyed. I told him I was done speaking to him about his daughter destroying my crap, and it was time to go. He thinks I'm a jerk for throwing a year and a half down the drain over some pictures. Am I? I think OP's not the jerk here. I think it's easy for somebody like that to nonchalantly be like, oh, they're just pictures. Oh, they're just a kid. Why are you overreacting so much? Do you guys agree that unequivocally the problem here starts with the dad and stops with the dad? That they're just a huge enabler? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is from Unlikely Strategy 596. Am I the jerk for not giving up my plane seat so a family could be all together? So I traveled home today from Greece. The flight was roughly 10 hours, and around this time of year, it's extremely hectic. I booked my tickets specifically to be closer to the front of the plane so I can be closer to the gate when it's time to get out. I personally hate traveling, so I spent a bit more money to be closer. When I got on the plane, a family of 4 approached me and asked if I could switch spots. Normally I'd be okay with that, but switching spots would mean moving back 20 rows down, which leaves me at an inconvenience, and I would not be getting my money's worth. I rejected and said that I would like to keep my seat. The woman said that I was being a jerk and that I should give up my seat so she could sit with her husband and kids. Ouch, right in front of the kids too. I said, respectfully, ma'am, your travel issues are not my problem. I'm keeping the seats I paid for. She ended up making a scene and basically said, wow, look at this jerk who can't even move seats so a family could sit all together. I said, maybe you should have booked ahead of time or spent more money on tickets so you all could sit together. This is not my issue. Grow up and get over it. I'm not moving seats. End of story. I sat down, her husband apologized for me for her behavior, and said that she hates traveling, but giving her the seat would have made things easier in the end. So, am I the jerk for not giving up my seat? I am a staunch believer that if you pay for a plane seat, you have every right to, remain in that seat. Bless you if you are willing to give it up for whatever reason. Dikembe Mutombo happens to be an economy and needs the leg space from the first row, but I wholeheartedly agree with OP and I demand they not be shamed for it when they say that they paid for that seat and they're gonna keep that seat. This is one of those cope situations. This next story is from Spirited Departure 76. Am I the jerk for embarrassing a bride at her wedding? I, 34-year-old male, am not fond of my brother's wife, 23-year-old female. Even before the wedding planning started, the overall vibe was just weird. She's very demanding of my little brother. She tried to insert herself into our family very quickly. They were only together for 8 months before they got engaged. I do my best to play nice for my brother's sake. I agreed to be one of his best men, but expressed my concerns to him both before and after I accepted. Their wedding was today. It was a very pretty ceremony and I made it through without much incident. My husband and our 6-month-old were there as guests, and I was looking forward to spending time with them following the ceremony. Neither myself nor my husband were drinking more than 1 glass of champagne since our son was there, but there was an open bar. My brother's wife was already at least tipsy by the time the first dances picked up. After all the usual dances, she came over to where my husband and I were seated and held out her arms for our son. She said she wanted to have a first dance with him. It was a cute gesture, but I smiled and politely declined. She and I don't have much of a relationship outside your usual pleasantries, and I don't feel comfortable with her holding my son. She tried again, and my husband stepped in and told her a stern no since she didn't accept the first one. She kind of laughed things off and then went on without incident without that. The event wrapped up about an hour ago, and I've since received some pretty scathing texts from my brother saying that I totally embarrassed his wife at her wedding and that she's very upset. Am I the jerk? First of all, I'm willing to bet that the brother and the sister-in-law are blowing this way out of proportion. Oh, you've embarrassed me so badly in front of everybody. Yeah, I'm sure, in a week from now, everybody's gonna be thinking about how OP turned down their sister-in-law getting to dance with their kid. Everybody's gonna gather around to the next family gathering and laugh in unison at how ridiculous it was. Or maybe they should just get over themselves. By the way, if you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below so you never miss any of my daily videos. This next story is from an anonymous poster. Am I the jerk for expecting my significant other to be more considerate and telling me the washing machine was just used? She says I should instead ask her and confirm the clothes inside are not freshly washed. Me and my significant other have been arguing all day about this, and it's gotten pretty nasty. When I went to open the washer, I saw our white bed sheets were in there, and I thought nothing of it because my clothes are white, and I figured she'd waited for me to return home so we could wash the whole load together. Her argument is that she would have asked me if the roles were reversed, and I said that's not fair because I'm not a mind reader, and I don't want to feel like I need permission to do everything around the house. Who's in the right here? I feel like in general there's some greater issue being made out of this situation. I think OP is the jerk because I don't know, if you live with somebody else and something is at least seemingly maybe in the process. Like if you walk into the kitchen and you see some dishes on the counter but relatively clean, should you get all like anxious and balled up about asking if your significant other washed the dishes already? Or should you just go, nah, I don't need to ask them, I'll just do them myself? You know, OP's arguing about one of the foundations of any good relationship, communication. I know OP doesn't want to wait around and ask, but it seems like a small thing. Our next story is from Throwaway795571. Am I the jerk for sneaking out of the restaurant after my fiance told me to pay for his and his friend's meal? I, female 33, have been engaged to my fiance, male 37, for 5 months. We don't share finances because that's what he wants. I got a raise on my salary, now I earn 30% more than he does, and I noticed that he's been using this to ask me to pay for him and his friends. Whenever I say no, or why should I pay for this, he would respond with, the 30%, that's why. He acts as if the 30% is unfair, or that I'm not deserving of it. Several times he's tricked me to pay for his and his friends' meals by asking me publicly. Let me say that I'm too nice to say no. I hate confrontation, especially when we're at a public place like a restaurant, so I just grin and pay. Last Tuesday, he asked me to join him and his buddies for dinner. I told him from the start I wasn't paying for their food and he should not expect me to. He said he got this and no worries. We got to the restaurant, met his friends, ordered food, and in the middle of the meal he leaned in and whispered that I would be paying for everything he and his friends ordered. I got so mad, I whispered back, no, but he probably relied on me not causing a scene in public and in front of his friends. He said, you have enough money, you could pay for everyone's food. 30%, remember? I was fuming inside. Instead of reacting negatively and losing my temper, I waited till the bills arrived. They were already split from the start when we first ordered. I paid for mine, and then I excused myself to the restroom. I then snuck out from there, got into my car, and went home. I started getting phone calls from my fiance and then texts asking where I was. I texted back saying that I didn't appreciate how he put me in this situation and basically tricked me into paying for his and his friends' food. I told him I went home, then stopped replying. An hour later, he came and started yelling at me, calling me selfish, irrational, cheapskate, and childish for sneaking out like that, and leaving him stuck with a bill he couldn't pay. He had to call his brother for help. We had a loud argument, then he walked out. His friends didn't speak to me on this, but he told me they're disappointed in my behavior and are telling him to take time and reflect on the type of woman he's going to be married to. Am I the jerk for what I did? Is what he's expecting from me fair or justified? I think OP is definitely not the jerk here, and man, that is such a red flag at the very end. The weird attempt at emotional manipulation where they're like, well, my friends told me to reflect on what kind of woman I'm gonna be married to. At that point, I'd probably want to reply with like, oh, well, when you meet her, let me know what she's like. This next story is from NoLost9292. Am I the jerk for asking my wife to accommodate my autistic friend's needs? My 34-year-old male, good friend, 27-year-old male, is on the spectrum. I don't know if how I'm speaking about this will come across as offensive, but he's on the less severe side of things. He's verbal and can read social cues decently well. The only tells of his are stims. He rocks almost constantly if he's sitting still, a few verbal stims, etc., and his aversion of a few sensory-related things. It's not something that he shares with a lot of people. He got a diagnosis later in life since his parents just thought he was a weird kid while he was growing up. Him confiding in me about this didn't change anything between us. But some of the stories he's shared broke my heart a little and have made me feel more protective of him. Due to the AC going out in his apartment and not being able to be fixed for a few days, he came to stay with my wife and I. He can't sleep unless it's on silk sheets. So I ran out and bought some the day he asked to sleep over. I wanted him to be as comfortable as possible. Sensory issues aren't simple requests, they're genuine needs. My wife was already a little annoyed by that and pointed out that I hadn't done any of that for any of our other guests. Then halfway through his second day with us, he pulled me aside and asked me to fix whatever smell was going on in the house, that it was hurting his head and really bothering him. After some investigation on our part, we figured out it was the perfume my wife was wearing. I politely asked my wife if she would go get changed or shower so that my friend could enjoy dinner with us. She not only refused, but she tried kicking my friend out for being high maintenance. I put an end to that quickly. I realize she's not as clued in on his needs, but he's a guest in our home all the same. His diagnosis is his to share, and his alone. I've refused to budge on any of the issues. According to an email he got, the AC in the building should be back up and running again tomorrow. My wife booked a hotel for the night and is insisting that one of them, either herself or my friend, go and stay there for the night. My friend is clearly distraught over this, and I just can't send him off on his own when he's clearly upset after all that's happened. Am I the jerk? I think OP's the jerk, not necessarily for trying to look out for their friend, but for bringing somebody into the house with no real explanation, doesn't give any good explanation for why they're being so high maintenance, and just constantly trying to leave their wife in the dark, kind of suffering from dealing with this overall situation. Like, I know you don't want to share their diagnosis, but you're piling so much stuff on the wife and pushing everything on her, and she has no idea what's going on. It's like her home's just been taken over and invaded by somebody that OP can't say no to. Just imagine living in your own home, husband brings a friend over and starts asking you things like, "Hey, can you shower so our friend can have a meal with us?" without understanding anything that's going on. Our next story is from Grand Energy 1521. Am I the jerk for asking my daughter-in-law to seek help? I'm 56-year-old female. Our youngest son, 30-year-old male, recently married his wife, 29-year-old female. We live in different states and usually only see each other for holidays, etc. Our son's elder brother, 33-year-old male, was recently diagnosed with autism. While our younger son and now wife and daughter-in-law were still dating, he brought her home to us so we could meet her. She's always been a little off. She's shy and awkward and prefers doing stuff on a computer to being outdoors. My husband and I are very outdoorsy and live an active life, so I guess we clashed a bit there. She's always been nice, and in the beginning of their relationship, she participated in a lot of our activities, even if she wasn't great at them. She comforted our elder son after his diagnosis, which was a hard blow for all of us. She said she also felt awkward and weird at times, and that it was okay to be different. I suspected maybe she meant this as a way of telling us she was on the spectrum too. About 2 years ago, they had their first kid. They had some issues conceiving and lost a baby before having their daughter. She's a great kid and we love her so much. Ever since the daughter was born, my daughter-in-law has become even more awkward around us. We invited them over to celebrate the 4th of July. Daughter-in-law was tired and didn't participate in any outdoors activities, but instead insisted on working on the computer while our son was the one playing with his daughter outdoors. I asked her what she was doing in front of the screen all the time, and she just told me she was catching up on work. This just seemed off to me because why wouldn't she want to play with her husband and kid outside? My husband and I spoke privately about our worries that she's not participating in her daughter's childhood at all, and leaving it all to her husband. We both agreed that we should talk to her about it. After dinner, yes, there were drinks involved, I went away to do the dishes and I heard raised voices. When I came back to the table, daughter-in-law was crying as my husband was telling her off quite sharply. He said some things that might have been a bit harsh, but nothing untrue. She stormed off crying instead of discussing the issue further. I followed her to try and talk down the situation and told her we were just worried about her, them as a couple, their daughter. This is when I told her I think she should seek help in counseling for autism, as I figured that was why she was struggling with motherhood. She was extremely offended and told me she was not autistic but suffering from PPD. They packed their bags and left in a hurry. Later, we saw that she'd unfriended both my husband and me on Facebook and blocked us from messaging her. They haven't spoken to us since. Our son is apparently furious, according to his brother. We can't reach out to explain our side of things now that we're blocked. Both of us meant well, and it came from a place of worry for our grandchild. Am I the jerk? I think OP is definitely the jerk here. In no way are you going to claim that while the daughter-in-law is crying with the husband telling her off quite sharply, that that's coming from a place of just worry. Even if it is coming from a place of worry, you don't yell and tear into people. It's not like daughter-in-law made some grand mistake. It's not like they were doing some DUI with the kids without a seatbelt laying on the dashboard of the car, you know? The daughter-in-law tried to be vulnerable and tried to comfort the son earlier, and you also assumed way too much all over that. Our next story is from Laura J 2013. Am I the jerk for canceling dinner and going home over something my boyfriend's dog did? I'll preface this by saying that I, 25-year-old female, have been seeing Michael, 31-year-old male, for a while now. He's a really funny, a bit too sarcastic though, guy, and we pretty much get along well. We've been dating for 4 months. Michael likes the food I cook, and he wanted me to come to his house to cook him dinner and also meet his dog for the first time. I only saw him in pictures and videos. He's overprotective of him. I grabbed all I needed from the store and went over to his house. All went well. I met his dog and then we sat down to talk. Suddenly his dog started moving in a funny way. Michael was laughing while looking at me. I felt confused. I asked him what the dog was doing, and Michael said that the dog was telling him about me. I was like, okay. And then he flat out said the dog thought I was ugly. That shocked me completely. I looked at Michael and asked if he was serious. He started explaining that his dog was like that with some people, and that I shouldn't get offended over an animal's behavior. I felt horrible as I, a person who always struggled with self-esteem and am no stranger to the word ugly, my issue wasn't with the dog but with what Michael said. It was like he was indirectly giving his opinion about my looks and using his dog as an excuse. Long story short, we had an argument, and I ended up canceling dinner and going home. Michael called me several times, then when I picked up, he was lashing out the entire time, saying that I overreacted and that I can't blame him and punish him for something his dog did. He advised me to get rid of the toxic sensitivity I have and deal with whatever insecurity I have as soon as possible because what happened will set the tone for our relationship and eventually our marriage later. I did respond later, which caused another argument. My sister said I messed things up with my stupidity and that I should have laughed it off, but for some reason I wasn't able to. Did I overreact here? That's just really weird and uncomfortable, and I think one of the most concerning things is OP had been dating this guy for 4 months. They go to their house, meet their dog for the first time, and honestly, it feels like this whole relationship has just blown up from that one night. Usually if a 4-month relationship is blown up over one night, it's because the partner went and cheated or something. But I agree with everything OP did here. I don't think they can be the jerk here. That's just so bizarre. Our next story is from Leah BR59. Am I the jerk for telling my cousin she ate meat? I, 22-year-old female, have a cousin, 21-year-old female, Paige. She's vegan. I love her. She's always been like a sister to me. On my dad's side, I have another cousin, 26-year-old male, Dave. He's a really nice person too, but I didn't really grow up to be with him as he's older and his family lives far away from us. Well, 2 days ago, we were at this dinner my aunt Dave's mom hosted. It was a dinner to celebrate Dave's engagement. Dave's fiance Laura insisted on cooking. Apparently she's very well known for her food, and everyone in my family who's tasted her food loves it. I personally never did, and I was open to it as I love trying new stuff. While Laura was cooking, Paige approached her to remind her that she's vegan. She took the time to do it before Laura started dinner. Fast forward to dinner, I noticed some meat in it. Paige asked about it, which Laura responded and said she used fake meat for Paige. She didn't doubt Laura and started to eat. I'll admit I found it quite odd that Laura had fake meat, or that my aunt would have any since they're both carnivorous. After dinner, almost everyone was outside but the three of us, including Laura. I asked her if she really used fake meat for Paige and said, heck no. If she's vegan, she's gotta bring her own food, while laughing. I was in shock and disbelief. I went outside, pulled Paige aside and told her. I just couldn't keep it to myself, and I felt too bad for Paige. I saw the anger rising up in her face while she got up and screamed at Laura inside the house. What she didn't know is that everyone else could hear. It ended up with Laura being completely embarrassed and Paige leaving the house. Paige went up to me screaming that I shouldn't have told her and that everyone was having a great time until I opened my mouth. Everyone at the dinner are taking her side, saying I shouldn't have said anything and that it wasn't my business. They all said that Laura was new to the family and that it was wrong of me to embarrass her like that. I don't know what to do. All of them are saying I did something wrong and that it could have just been a one time and that Paige would have never noticed. She messaged me earlier saying thank you for telling her. Am I the jerk? I think OP is not the jerk here because very clearly Paige is living a lifestyle that she's not trying to force on anybody else. When Paige went to Laura and said I'm vegan, if Laura just said, "I'm sorry, I don't have any plans for vegan food," like it would suck, but at least she wouldn't be lied to. I especially agree with OP ratting Laura out though because of just that reaction Laura had, where they're sitting there laughing like, "Oh, of course it wasn't vegan, you gotta bring your own food, blah blah blah." That's just like a huge screw you to everything Paige stands for. Our next story is from Throwaway Son 87. Am I the jerk for not grounding my son? There's a little boy, male 6-ish, in our street who constantly bullies other kids. We told his parents multiple times, but it seems like they don't care. Today, my daughter, 7, went outside to play and took her doll with her. A few minutes later, she came back inside crying, saying that boy stole her doll. Before I could go do or say anything, my son, 13, went out and a minute later came back holding my sister's doll and gave it to her. I was busy making lunch, so I didn't ask what happened. A few minutes later, I heard someone knocking and it was the boy's mom. She told me my son scared her son and yelled at them. She demanded my son be punished for this and be grounded because she doesn't want my son around hers. I told her it seems like her problem, not mine, and went back inside. I told my friend about what happened, and she called me a jerk for letting my teenage son bully a little boy. I think OP's not the jerk here, and frankly, I think what OP's son did is exactly what an awesome older brother does. If there's a neighborhood bully that treats you bad, steals your stuff, that's what your older brother's supposed to do. They're supposed to go out there and put some fear into that bully. How much you want to bet now that bully's gonna second guess mistreating your daughter? Good. I'm surprised this story isn't on r/entitled parents, and OP definitely isn't either the entitled one or the jerk. Our next story is from Puzzle Load 8056. Am I the jerk for taking mother-in-law's fiance's threat to sue us seriously and wanting him banned from family events? I recently got engaged to my boyfriend of 4 years. We are beyond excited. His mom has always been a nightmare, but I'm not worried about it as he handles her. She got engaged a few months before we did to Chris. I somewhat know Chris, as his ex-wife is one of my mom's best friends. I just know through their friendship that Chris never paid child support. They split when their son was 12, and he never gave her a dime despite making very good money. Due to this, I've never respected Chris, but he's gotten worse in the past year due to an issue between him and my fiance. When we got engaged, I was showing everyone my ring, and he loudly asked mother-in-law what she would have said if he proposed with that ring. She gave him a look, but he kept going and was laughing about how she would have just walked out. Hers is much bigger and probably real diamond, where mine is lab diamond, which is what I wanted. I announced that Chris maybe shouldn't be spending so much on a ring when he must owe his ex a crap ton in unpaid child support, and don't men go to jail for that? He looked mortified, and obviously the family was curious. Mother-in-law snapped at me and they left. I thought it was over, but Chris's ex called me and chewed me out. She said she didn't want child support because she can take care of her own child. And she believes men have rights as well, and Chris has begged her to abort. She was really rude about it and hung up on me. Again, I thought it was over, but Chris sent me a message that if I opened my stupid mouth again, he would sue for defamation. I took this very seriously as he's a lawyer. I told everyone I cannot stand to be around Chris. I won't be going to their wedding. He can't come to ours, and I will not attend family events if he is there. Most of the family took my side and said they would stop inviting Chris. Now this has blown up into mother-in-law saying she will never speak to any of us again, and grandfather-in-law is backing her. The family is in absolute turmoil, and mother-in-law is threatening to disown her own son if he doesn't say Chris can come to our wedding. Chris is a major jerk and sounds insufferable. Imagine putting somebody down for what ring they got. I don't blame OP for not wanting them around. I don't think OP's the jerk here, and with the lawsuit threat, maybe OP should show Chris up by turning around and trying to get some kind of restraining order. Then they literally wouldn't be able to go to that wedding. And our final story of the day is from Attendance Optional. Am I the jerk for having the engagement party without her? I proposed to my girlfriend of 7 years, and I don't think anyone was surprised, but it's still a big deal to us. So we wanted to make a thing about it. We rented the event room at a fancy restaurant and invited the people most special to us for the big reveal. In order to keep the nature of the evening secret, we arranged for one-on-one dinners with each attendee. We made sure to pick a day when everyone was free. This was just our best friends and closest family, so we almost managed it. The only person who said she couldn't make it was my mom. She said she was going to a concert that night. We couldn't reschedule, so I decided I would just call her when her concert was over and have everyone break the news to her as a group, so she would still be somewhat included. That's what sort of happened. The dinner started at 8. Everyone got there, were super surprised to see each other. I led them to the room, and my girlfriend showed everyone the ring. There were congratulations, food, drinks, and revelry. My mom said her concert ended at 9, so at 9:30 I called her. When she answered, everyone greeted her and she asked what was going on. I told her, and she said she would talk to me later and hung up. She's incredibly upset that I let her miss my engagement party for a concert. She says I should have told her, but that would have ruined the surprise. My mom isn't good at keeping secrets. I'm her only son, and she's devastated she missed this once-in-a-lifetime event. Am I the jerk? I love surprising people with things as much as anybody else, but this is definitely one of those situations where you don't have to necessarily say, even though it's pretty obvious what it's going to be, just telling them, listen, this is a pretty special thing. We really need you to be there. I would say it's way more important than a concert. I think OP should have just made an earnest attempt to get them to not actually go to that concert. So sadly, I think this falls with OP being a little bit more on the jerk side. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another Am I the Jerk Here story that was absolutely crazy, click on that left video. Or if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.